I thought I would explain the control box and a little bit about what's in it, because I was very much educated by my friends. Luckily enough, I live with two Sparkies, and so they taught me pretty much everything about what this control box has and what that all means. So if you're a newbie like me, stick around and hopefully I'll be able to do this justice. I got the Sanhema control box, and inside it we've got cigarette port, USB, USB-C, and then we've got some switches. So no, these switches are not for that. These are linked up differently. We've got our fuse box with 2020, 1515, and our DC charger. We also have solar input, and then our Anderson plug for our alternator and to go to our battery, our main battery. And then we've got the voltometer and the reset button. So I went with this setup because I do want to add a solar panel. I wanted to have everything that I might need when I expand it. The other alternatives is getting a battery box. My friends have one and it seems to do a pretty good basic job. I've got this because hopefully I'll be going camping for a couple of weeks, and I want to be able to have a bit of an easy setup to run everything that I would want. I didn't get an inverter. I just don't think that I need household appliances. I'm not that much of a fancy gal. I can live with just 12 volt appliances, run my fridge off, run the lights off. That's all I really need. Charge my phone, maybe charge my drone. So interesting thing about the Hilux Rogue is that inside the glove box compartment, I actually have a 220 volt, 100 amp wall plug thing. So I feel like perhaps for things like charging drone batteries, which might take a little bit of power, if I'm driving places, then that might be a good idea for me to plug that in. I've got this wall plug inside the middle, what do you call that? Whatever this middle thing's called, I've forgotten the word for it, but yeah, I've been driving for a couple of minutes and my battery's already gone up, and I'm just using it to charge my Ryobi battery so that I can use my drill and my blower when I want. Don't need an inverter right now, probably won't invest in one in the future. So inside the box, we've got, inside this main compartment, we've got 3 50 amp fuses. So when it comes to these, there's a combination of 50 amps that you can plug into here. Anything over that is going to blow the fuse because it's going to go over. I also didn't really know what a fuse meant. It's obviously just a circuit breaker. I knew that part. But you've got the 20, you've got the 15. If you plug something in that's going to take too many amps, then it's going to blow the fuse. So these are related to these ones. So it'll be about figuring out if one of your fuses blows, which one of your appliances is the culprit. And you'd find that out by knowing which one of the fuses correlates with what is rigged up. So for these, I guess this is where you'd probably hook up your lights. I don't have lights yet, maybe in the future, but pretty much putting your input into here, output into your, this guy, I don't know what you'd call him, and so then you can use the switches to just turn on and off your lights wherever you want to access it. This is going to be mounted onto a panel that's going to go kind of like at the wall of my canopy panel that I'm going to mount on the cab side. A lot of setups have it where you just wall mount it onto there. That's the plan. Now, the main thing that I want to power is the fridge. I'm going to put that into one of these Anderson plugs. I don't have a solar yet, but when I do, it'll go in there. And I pretty much just want the Anderson because that's just going to stay in. That's going to be a pretty stock standard in you go. So it frees up these ports for if I ever need them or whatever I decide to do. But it's going to go in the Anderson. So I watched a couple of videos and was a little bit apprehensive. Thankfully, my friends who are Sparkies are going to be taking me through it because I wouldn't trust myself with a DIY job. I don't want to set my car on fire by accident. Way too much of a large investment to see that going up in flames because I've done some shoddy work. So they crimp, they wire every single day, and so they're going to show me how they do it, which is awesome. I get to see them in their element and doing what they love. And then I'm also gonna learn a new skill, which I probably will not do by myself for any meaningful reason again, because I don't want to set something on fire by accident, and I would otherwise just pay a Sparky to do it. So when the control box came, it came with these two short ones that came out the side here. Now I'm mounting my control box up on a panel, so I wanted these wires are going to the battery box, and so I've just kind of got the 1 meter one, so, and changed up the positive and negative terminal, so it comes out here. That's going to go on this large Anderson plug, and then that will go into my battery box terminal. Now here we've got the triple Anderson plug, which will be hooked up to the ignition, and then also the starter battery. That's for that one, which will go in there. These two will be hooked up with this wire and will be running from the back of the fridge to the control box. So here's the wiring. This one is for the fridge. So with the drawer fridge, King's doesn't give you the wires, so I picked some up from J-Car, stripped it, and then folded it, I think 2 or 3 times. So tried to fold it enough that it filled about 80% of the lug, and then you crimp the lugs a couple of times depending how big and how much room you have. So here I am crimping the lugs. My housemates had a crimping tool that I just set to however big the lugs were, and then I crimped down one, took it out, turned it about 90 degrees, and then crimped again. For the big ones, it took about 3 crimps, for the small ones 2. And then I did a really big, strong pull test to make sure that they weren't going anywhere. Alright, in the engine bay, I have my wire to the ignition, which I've linked up with one of the lights using a piggyback fuse. Negative, which I've put on the terminal, and the positive, which I've put on the terminal, and they run together, an 80 amp fuse, and then they all come together. So the wiring comes through this pre-drilled hole in the back of my ute tub. So I used to have a hardtop lid, and that's where the electronics attached to. When I created my own wire, turns out it wasn't long enough, so I actually went to Kick-Ass and got a wiring harness, and now this kind of just sits in my back. At the moment I've taken my drawers out, and it's got the triple Anderson plug there, and it's got the cover on it, so it kind of just sits here at the back waiting for me to link up and attach the dual battery whenever I need it.